It seems most artists take a 2-year time off and no one thinks two things about it, but you do, and the world freaks out a bit. But here you are, 2 years later. How was the time off?
It was really nice. I needed it.
Yeah, was this the time that you just kind of didn't do anything with music? I mean, were you still writing and everything, or did you just kind of shun it away for a moment?
Well, no, I started my own label during the time that I didn't tour and didn't make records and stuff. Just during that little bit of time, I focused on setting up my label, but I mostly just had a normal life. I just kind of stopped playing for about a year and a half.
Was it hard at all to stay inactive, like in that sense, after having done it the way you've done it for so long?
No, I was quite sick for some of that because I figured out at some point that I was symptomatic of something and I couldn't tell what it was, and it turned out that I had meniere's disease, which is a disease of the inner ear and causes nausea and dizziness and hearing loss. I spent about a year figuring out how to. I worked really hard to deal with the symptoms of extreme tinnitus, and I had to change my entire life, my diet and my routine, and I had to really become a different person in order to just survive. And once I got a hang of that, I wanted to just focus on, my family, my life for a minute, and eventually, I kind of picked the guitar back up for a minute, and things kind of started to make sense.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you. I mean, we're all glad that you're back.
Me too. It's nice to be back.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sorry to hear that. But what a thing to live with and not know what it was. I mean, that had to be frustrating.
Yes, it was extremely frustrating. Yeah. I just felt nauseous and sick, and I had been sober for some time, so it didn't make any sense to me why. And also I started to not be able to hear people when they spoke to me, and it wasn't because I wasn't paying attention. So it eventually, I remembered that my grandfather had really, really big hearing aids, and he was even still then hard of hearing, and may have been symptomatic of the same stuff. He passed away, unfortunately, and he was like a father to me, and he passed away, and so there's no way to know whether he would have had meniere's as well, but it is possible that it's genetic. They don't know a lot about it. They just know that they don't even understand it. Yeah. They understand that it's an inner ear disease and that it blows the inner ear wall, and that most people have extreme vertigo, and it's just like that your body feels like you're seasick. Yeah. Or like you're on a ferry and like you're going through extreme water. It feels like that. So it's really quite interesting.
And you had to go through it in public on top of all that.
Yeah, actually the last 2 years of being in the Cardinals, I was suffering in a great way. And because I was already on the road and I smoked cigarettes then, which is really bad for meniere's. Stress is bad for meniere's. Salt. You have to be careful with your diet. It's really extreme, but at the time we were rolling down the road pretty intensely, and so I was doing whatever I could to keep up the momentum. And I remember feeling and looking quite old and quite frail and quite skinny, and just really coming up hard. And I'm glad I made it. I'm glad I made it through that. I'm glad I called it. Right. I knew something was wrong, and I knew I had to. I had to stop.
So does this get addressed on the new record? Did you write anything about this?
No. When I write, it's detached from the physical. Mm-hmm. I describe places and things and people, and sometimes my feelings or an environmental situation, but I don't think I consciously wrote about it. Maybe there are some parts of the album that maybe there are lines and things that could be could be seen as having to do with that, but I don't know.
Well, and after this long, as you mentioned, so you get to a point where you finally kind of pick it back up and you start writing again. Especially compared to other artists, you have written so many songs that it is impressive that you can find new ways to say, maybe the same things, or just find inspiration to write new things that excites you. How does that come about at this point?
I don't know. I'm just in my life. I'm just having this experience of my life. I'm just being in my life and reacting in the way that I react, to my surroundings. I don't know if I know another way to be.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Oh, it does make sense. It really does. Well, we'll jump to you chose to work with Glenn Johns this time after working with his son Ethan for a while on some of those earlier records. What was the idea of hooking up with Glenn?
1999 or 2000, I worked with Ethan on a record called Pneumonia, and I think it was around then for my band Whiskey Town. And Glenn had come around and he sort of did. Glenn came around and he did the strings. So I'd already kind of been around him, and then he hung out with us a little bit when we made the album Gold. So I was kind of used to it, used to being around him, and of course he made all those amazing records. Oh, and I couldn't see not working with him for this record specifically because I was just pretty. The process of working again was so intense. It was so intense to get everything going again for me that I needed somebody that knew how to encourage me in the correct way and to encourage the songs along. And I felt like Glenn he got me going again. He, basically everything I was trying to write at that time, it didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel right. And then finally, when Glenn came into the picture and I sat across the table from him and played him my music, I feel like he saw connections I didn't, and he inspired songs that to be on the record that they were more linked like an album and less concerned with their own individual their own individual nature. I mean, he is an album producer, like in the truest sense of the word, and I think I really benefited from that.
Well, having heard what I heard so far, I can attest. I mean, this is an album. I mean, this is definitely an album. It has a cohesive feel all the way through. So, mission accomplished, I would suppose.
Yeah, definitely. It's got me into thinking more about album writing for the album and writing thematically, and also being very true to myself in that process. So that's really good. I think there's a lot I can do there.
Yeah. So with the rest of the year, let's see. I'd heard that there was a possibility of another book coming out. Is that true?
I'm working on something now. I was working on an actual story, but I've slipped back into poetry for the time being.
Yeah.
Because I just go where my whim takes me when I write, and I feel really unaccomplished writing poetry, and as embarrassing as it may be for me to not really to know how to find my way through it, it feels really challenging to try. Mm-hmm. I think it feels like a really brave move for me to sit and I read so much poetry, and I love so much class. I don't read like Byron, not really. Unless somebody sends me something, or Keats or that kind of stuff. I read kind of, modern contemporary stuff from the 1900s forward, and a lot of beat poetry I love. Mm-hmm. So it has a lot to do with that, and it just I don't know. Yeah. I want to submit my voice and describe the things around me, and it seems like the easiest thing to do, easiest tool.
It'd be another conversation altogether, but I'd love to talk beat poetry with you sometime. I spent a few years just diving into that, and it's
wonderful stuff. It's very freeing.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
And Lawrence Ferlinghetti is unmatched for me.
Yeah.
I've read most of Ginsberg's work. He would be if I had guardians, it would be Auden and Ginsberg.
Yeah.
But William H. Auden is to me, he's my spirit guide. But I read Ginsberg the way that people read the news.
Yeah.
I feel very close to his work. He's informed my life in so many ways. Sunflower Sutra, the poem about he and Jack Kerouac, wasted, sitting on railroad tracks, looking at San Francisco in this early morning scenario where they're wasted and just decimated by this crazy night. It has been the blueprint for my life. I love how fearless they were, and it's so funny because they did all that in a time so far away from modern cynicism. There's so much cynicism, and everybody's so much smarter than everybody, and it's really difficult. It's really difficult to find that purity, and I'm pretty mystified at what an unimaginable pure ride they had.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is just amazing.
Yeah, just creating a lifestyle before it existed. I can honestly say that Ginsberg's "America" is probably my all-time favorite poem at all.
That's an amazing poem. He's so gloriously pissed off.
That's a great way to put it. It really is. Gloriously pissed off.
It's true.
Yeah.
He's so disappointed.
Yeah.
And he let a lot of people out of the dark. That man.
Yep, he did. Well, sir, I know you're on the train and you need to get going. I really do appreciate every one of these minutes here. So thanks for talking. And
thank you so much, man.
And hopefully we'll see you around Louisville again. I know you stop through here every few tours, and we love it every time. So.
Yes, sir.
All right. You have a great one, and we'll see you around.
You too. Bye.
Bye.